Hello, and welcome to Controversial Data Topics podcast, where we educate about critical issues in our community, government, and workplaces. We connect with and encourage our listeners and uncover hidden agendas, motives, and truths about data and technology that have crippled society for more than 3 decades. I am your host, Dr. Holly K. Neal, also known as the Data Boss Lady. Welcome. This is a bonus segment. From time to time, we will celebrate and highlight community members who are doing something positive to encourage others in the earth. This Supermom program features wife, mother, and producer, Asia Foster, who lives in the Midwest region of the United States. So today, I am going to start with data statistics so you know what facts this program is built on, and then create knowledge for you so that you understand why it is important for members in society to unite as a community and begin to build a stronger presence and bond across neighborhoods, schools, communities, churches, cities, states, and the world. In this episode, we will start off with statistics supported by data related to marital status and divorce rates for females over the age of 30. Then we'll look at how the balancing act involving family and career impacts marriage. Finally, we will venture into different territory to learn about parenting valleys and peaks from the perspective of a film producer in the arts and entertainment industry. I plan to highlight several of the points in just a few minutes. However, I want to start this segment informing you that several of these truths are backed by evidence. By the end of the episode, I will leave you with details about how you can support young women like Asia in the African American community. Also, I will leave you links to data I cover in this episode. So let's jump things off with taking a look at some data from Bowling Green State University. Basically, Bowling Green State University conducted a study that was released in 2023, specifically focusing on divorce rates in 2021. And in the same study, divorce statistics revealed there were 14.0 divorces for every 1,000 women reporting they were married in the survey. Now, findings from Bowling Green State University's National Center for Family and Marriage Research concluded that of females between the age of 18 and 29 years of age, 19.9 per 1,000 married women experienced divorce in 2021. Within the age bracket of 30 to 44, 17.4 per 1,000 married females divorced in the same year, which was during COVID-19 pandemic. The findings were supported in a report specifically for citizens in the United States who participated in the Census Bureau surveys. Therefore, the numbers may actually be a little higher than what we're looking at right now. So, additionally, males and females within the African American community had the highest divorce rates in 2021, specifically 22.6 reported for Black males, and then there were 24.5 Black females, having white males and females reporting the second lowest rates at 10.8 and 11.4 respectively. Now, before we jump into Asia Foster's responses, I want you to understand the timing, the number, and duration of marriages and divorces for couples in the same age bracket of our guests. In 2021, a current population report published by the U.S. Census Bureau discovered that there were certain marital patterns during the previous 5 decades. And they highlight that the divorce rate in 2016 for women was 8.2, and for men, it was 7.8, respectively. Hence, divorce rates had decreased right before COVID-19 pandemic. Now, part of the reason why I want to shed light on those statistics before we start the exclusive interview with our special guest, Asia Foster, is because Asia touches on some points about marriage when she actually got married, which was actually during COVID-19. But she also highlights how she kept the spark alive in her own marriage with her husband and some of the things that they have done in order to raise their children. Although she has a busy work schedule and a busy career, as well as being a mom and a wife, she has shown that there are ways that you can overcome different challenges. With that being said, let's get to this exclusive interview with our special guest, Asia Foster, who tells all and shares the secret sauce to balancing the highs and lows in her own life. Hello, Asia. How are you doing today? And welcome to our program.
I'm blessed. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, wonderful, blessed. Yes. For those who do not know, Asia is a super mom. So we have this bonus segment for Asia where she could share a bit about her. She's actually been identified as a super mom and is currently in a contest for that. But I want you guys to learn something about Asia and her background, learn a little bit about her and what she does in her everyday. And Asia, thank you so much for joining. I just wanted to give an opportunity for you to share with our community about you and your family and things that you actually do on a day-to-day basis by being a wife, mother, and entrepreneur. So, how long have you been a wife and then a mother and then an entrepreneur and in no certain order, but just share with us that those bits of details.
Yes, sure. So I have been a mother since, or I've been a wife since 2020. My husband and I, we actually grew up knowing each other,
Okay.
and we both went to the same church, and it's our home church. And the Lord knew back then that He was my husband. I just didn't. Um,
Right. That's
And when we got together, it just worked. We talked. He ended up being a very good friend to me, and we ended up dating for years. And in 2020 was the year we was like, we don't want to go another year. Let's go ahead and just seal this deal and make it right with the Lord.
right.
So we did that, and it was COVID, so it was a lot. We was trying to do, a big wedding for everybody, and with
Mhm.
COVID going on, it was just too strenuous, and we didn't want to go into another year without being married and being
Mhm.
right before God. So we decided to get married in 2020,
Mhm.
and I had my first son in 2017. So he was born at 25 weeks.
Mhm.
So he was a miracle baby.
Yes.
He's my
Yes.
fighter.
Yes.
So I've been a mother since 2017.
Mhm.
And since then, I've had two more.
Okay.
My 2-year old, he was born in 2022.
Mhm.
And my newborn, he is 10 months this month.
Mhm.
And he was born last year in 2023
Mhm.
on June or July the 20th.
Okay, got it.
So I've got a little mini clan. I've got a little mini
Yeah.
clan.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then for my business side of things, so after I left, I went to school for creative and performing arts, and I was introduced to photojournalism as well as documentary, and that really sparked my interest into the entertainment industry. And I took that and decided to go to Fulton University in Orlando, Florida. After
Okay.
I graduated in 2013, I started my career in the DC area, and I started my business doing a lot of corporate work. God called me home, and I started working in the entertainment industry like I always loved. Great people, a lot of well-known actors, etc. And one of my greatest productions that I've worked on is Fear of the Walking Dead.
Mhm.
And I love that. I had to go out to Texas, but that really allowed me to see that I needed to really build something for my family.
Mhm.
So I did photography and I did videography on the side. And I
Mhm.
had my business going, but I wasn't really operating in my business the way I really wanted to be. It was more so like a side hustle.
Right.
And I decided after COVID and everything shut down, there was a lot of lost work. And then right after that, the film industry went through a strike.
Mhm.
So it was very difficult, and the income just wasn't coming in as easily. I
Mhm.
decided that, I wanted to make standing on my own 2 feet. And if anything happens, I'd rather my business be the source of
Right.
where my mainstream income comes from. And I wanted to build something for my family and my children. My oldest, Nathaniel, he absolutely loves to watch me work. And now
Oh.
he's interested in camera work, et
Mhm.
cetera, et cetera. So I felt like that it was my job to make sure that I really capitalized on this. And in my industry, it's not as diverse.
Mhm.
Every production that I've worked on, it might, whether it be a large production
Mhm.
or a smaller production, there's only a handful of us. I can count on hand how many Black people actually work in the industry. So I really
Right.
wanted to also be a conduit to change that circumstance, to change that statistic in
Mhm.
the industry, at least here in my city, which is in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I wanted to kind of break those barriers,
Mhm.
and just spread a little love and spread some diversity in our industry and teach more people who look like me, as
Mhm.
well as women,
Mhm. Mhm.
the
Mhm.
industry. So I was like, you know what, I'm going to do this. So I've been doing this now for about 2 years.
Okay. Okay. Great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Because, like you said, when you think of like the industry in general,
Mm-hmm.
and I believe that most people don't really, they see, individuals
Mm-hmm.
in production, but they don't really know what those statistics are when it comes to just African Americans being involved and being engaged.
Right, right.
And I think that is
Mm-hmm.
a good opportunity too, because you're already there where people could possibly reach out to you and learn more from you, that kind of deal, because you've been there. And it's helping, like you said, it helps the community to have that visual aspect that, oh, there is someone that looks like me, and it's not just all
Right.
one race or all one ethnic background. African Americans are represented, but
Yeah.
are they? Um,
Mm-hmm.
so just thinking about that for a moment, because I want people to know, how old are you?
So I just turned 31.
Asia is not coming here and she's like, oh, well, I'm just, kind of pulling along. No, she's actually out here, she's grinding. So that's
Yeah.
one reason why I want people to understand your age, because
Mm-hmm.
she has this full cycle of things that she's juggling in the air, not just a wife, not just a mother, but her business. And she
Mm-hmm.
is 31, as she mentioned. That means she started really moving in fast paced mode when she became a mother and then a wife. And
Mm-hmm.
it's like people don't seem to understand that just because you become a mother, and like you said, you knew your husband beforehand because you all
Mm-hmm.
grew up together, but
Right.
although you had your son, it didn't stop you from saying, oh, well, I had my son and I don't know what I'm gonna do with my life. It was like, no, okay, we're gonna go ahead and get married. We're
Yep.
okay, my business, okay, I'm taking
Mm-hmm.
care of this. And you started looking from an aspect of family. And I think a lot of young people need to realize, which is one reason why I'm just so thankful and grateful that you decided to do this podcast, because there's so many, whether they're in Cincinnati or wherever they live, where they can understand that young people are doing things like yourself, and it doesn't just stop you. It should motivate others to say, okay, I have this over here that I'm juggling, but I can also juggle these things as well. And like you said, you had even gone to school. So I think that's a good thing too, for people to
Right.
realize you're connecting your dots. So it's not like you're
Yeah.
in this space and just trying to figure out where to go. You realize there are multiple connections to where you are. So think about the information that you knew
Mm-hmm.
about your schooling. You started to connect the dots of, okay, I want to go over here, I want to do this,
Mm-hmm.
I want to do that. So I
Right.
think that's really good.
Thank you.
Well, you're welcome. You're welcome. To what extent has like your parenting, I know you had touched on it a little bit, but what extent has your parenting motivated you to be or remain a business owner? Because sometimes people will find that, being a business owner is just taking up too much time and they don't have time for their families. But what made you, remain a business owner in this, like you said, because we're coming out of a pandemic, which we're
Mm.
like supposed to be in an endemic, but we don't know. So, but what
Yeah, yeah.
made you, still remain a business owner with all of the things that are going on, just in society in general?
Well, I think that question really starts when I was a child
Mm-hmm,
because I feel like that God put on my spirit
mm-hmm,
early, like allowed me to know something about myself very early, and that was that I get bored very easily. And
mm-hmm,
because of that, I knew that whatever career that I wanted to step into, it
mm-hmm.
had to be something that engaged my excitement consistently.
Gotcha.
It had to be something that was different that would allow me. I knew that I couldn't be just a 9 to 5 type of woman who
Mm-hmm,
went and stayed at one organization and worked my way through and
mm-hmm,
all the way up to the top year
mm-hmm,
after year and retired at 65.
mm-hmm,
I knew
mm-hmm.
that that was not me.
Right.
So when I found this industry, I just knew, like, because it's my ministry and it's within his will, because my heart sang when I
Yes.
found it.
Yes. Yes.
And I really believe in connecting with people
Mm-hmm,
and especially the underserved um, voices like
mm-hmm.
myself as a woman and as a Black woman.
Yes.
I think that it just was a calling.
Right.
So I knew that I couldn't stop,
Mm-hmm,
especially after I had my children.
mm-hmm,
Um, I knew that this was something that I had to do. I had to make room for us. I had to allow my gifts to make room for us.
mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
seeing, how much they become excited, because it's not an everyday thing where you
Right.
have your mother
Right.
or your father who works in the entertainment industry with acting and shooting movies
Right.
um, and creating these cinematic videos and going to their studio and doing these photography sets and shooting.
Mm-hmm.
It just gets exciting. Like, what,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
cool. I want to use the camera. So it also got me thinking,
Mm-hmm.
it took me until I was in 11th grade to be introduced to a camera. And
Right.
I'm like, I'm introducing this young 3 and 4 year old, you know what I'm saying, to
Mm-hmm.
camera work,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, and he's just falling in love. And I'm like, there's a whole industry out there
Right.
that touches on a lot of things that we do every day, whether that be welding, carpentry,
Mm-hmm.
hair,
Mm-hmm.
makeup,
Mm-hmm.
like
Mm-hmm.
set design. I mean, it's just everything that you do outside of film, you
Yeah.
do in film.
Right.
So it's like,
Exactly.
but people don't know about it, especially
Yes.
our people. And
Yes.
it's a way for and they pay very well in the
Mm-hmm.
film,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
but our people just are not aware.
Yes.
And they think that that's not a real career. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Mm-hmm.
that's not. I have to do something that's more, everybody's used to. So
Right.
I think that parenting has motivated me because I know that this is changing their lives,
Right.
and it's also something very big for me to try to break chains
Yeah.
and to make room, because
Yeah.
I don't want my family to live the way I had to grow up, way that
Right.
my mother had to grow up. And
Right.
I really want to leave. It's a necessity. I have to leave something for them,
Yeah.
something that they can sustain themselves, and then it's something for them to be able to continue to build on. You
Mm-hmm.
know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
And I think
So,
it's remarkable too, like you said, your children are around when you're working. So he's going to have some type of knowledge about an industry so early on that even if somebody tried to tell him something
mhm,
later in life,
yeah.
that's going to come up into his remembrance because he knows he observed, and he's going to basically have that level of influence that some adults don't even have today. I think it's really good because he has that exposure. And so think about like even like activities that you and your husband involve your children. And what are some of those that, keep them active? Because it could just be, it doesn't have to be sports or anything like that. But to your
Mhm,
point, like you're exposing them to film. What other types of activities? Because like you said, there's some traditional
mhm.
thoughts about careers, whereas
Yeah.
we have to learn to, as just Blacks, understand they're outside of the box. You don't have
Yeah.
to just go into the same industries or do the same type of activities, but what are some of those activities that you have engaged your children in to keep them active, you and your husband?
So, of course, we do a lot of normal things like you mentioned, sports,
Mm-hmm.
and we have game nights,
Mm-hmm.
etc.
Okay.
Um, and movie nights. We try to do something outside as well, so like picnics and stuff to get the kids outside
Mm-hmm.
and go to the park. Just because this generation they don't know how to stay off the electronics.
Right.
So
Right. That's the
I'm
number one.
trying to teach them how to use their imagination and
Mm-hmm.
get
Mm-hmm.
creative and go out and create your own game,
Right.
and it starts there. Because when I was little, you couldn't tell me I was in an alternate reality and I was
Right.
running my house and my
Right.
bathroom was my elevator.
Right.
And when I got off the elevator, it was a different floor every time.
Right.
And
Right.
but
Right.
that really started it.
Right.
So I
Yeah.
want them to get used to really using their imagination because
Right.
it really starts there. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Engaging imagination. And then we take them on sets. I
Yes.
take them to my studio
Mhm.
when I'm shooting, if I'm shooting infant, something that's a little bit more relaxed and where he
Mhm.
can kind of hang back. And
Mhm.
he has really like blossom. And I'm watching it before my eyes because before
Mm.
he just be like, oh mommy, can I help? Can I help? Can I help? And I'm like,
Aw.
honey, can you just how about you just take my phone and you can record and mom is gonna use the big camera and record or whatever. Or I'm gonna take the big camera and take photos
Right.
or whatever I'm doing.
Right.
And he's like, okay. And he's just so excited.
Mhm.
And now I'm like, every opportunity, he's like, mommy, can I record? Can I record? Even
Mhm.
if I'm not shooting anything, we're just at the house. He's like, he'll record. I'm like, yeah, you can record us, and he'll record us, or he'll take a picture. And
Aw.
I was like, well, let me check your work,
Uh-huh.
and I look at the framing and I look at the subject and where the subject is to the
Right.
light. And I'm
Right.
just noticing him just change. And I'm like, oh
Wow.
my goodness, you are my little
Right.
BTS photographer.
Right.
Like,
Right. He's gonna be a cameraman, and people gonna be like,
yes,
who filmed the video, or
yeah,
who filmed the movie? Oh yeah,
and
that was
he's
my son.
good.
Oh
And
my
I am
gosh.
horrible at getting like BTS of myself, like when I'm shooting. And
Mhm.
that's the thing, I'd be so enthralled at trying to make sure that I do a phenomenal job for my
Right.
client. I always go above and beyond.
Yes.
That I
Yes.
completely, it just slips my mind entirely to take like, let me do some BTS shots. Let me do some social media shots, and
Right.
because
Right.
we live in a
Yes.
very predominant world when it comes to social media
Mhm.
engagement
Mhm.
and exposure.
Mhm.
And, so I always forget. But when my son's there,
Mhm.
he's on it. He's like, let me get your phone. I'm going to record you doing this. I'm going to do a pan shot. Let me tip it up, see what you see. And I'm like, what
See, that's why I said
are you doing
he's
it?
gonna be that guy that people are like, oh yeah, get him high demand because he's starting right now. People don't
Yes.
think about starting their children in film. The first thing people think about, oh, let me put my child in sports. Okay, what about film? What about starting
Mm-hmm.
their
Yeah.
children in coding? What about, starting their
Mm-hmm.
children in all types of things such as landscaping? Like people don't realize
Right.
like
Right.
these are hands on, but at the same time we as individuals have to think creatively about
Yeah.
what our children can have to shape their minds to further
Mm-hmm.
elevate them and motivate them in the future.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Now
And through that, my
go ahead,
two
go
year
ahead.
old
Mhm.
right behind him. I said, through
Right.
that, my 2 year old is right behind him. He 2 years old, picking up a phone, recording, snapping
Oh
pictures.
my
I
goodness.
mean, he loves it. He loves it. So
Oh
I'm
my
like,
goodness.
okay, I'm doing something right. I'm doing something right.
Right. I'm getting them all together, y'all. Like people think about having basketball teams. You about to have a
Right.
director production team. Like people
I'm gonna have a
watch out.
whole production unit, okay?
Yes, people better watch out. They're gonna be like, what?
Yes, whole production team.
Most
In-house, baby.
productions,
In-house.
like, watch out. People don't know they gonna find out.
Yes.
Now, if you have listened this far, as you can tell, our guest, Asia Foster, captivates us, and we want to ensure to continue to support her and others like her in the community who are basically making positive strides to encourage cultures, women, men, and children. Now, of course, we know many are doing great things in the marketplace, but can we seriously assess the impact without data, whether it's quantitative or qualitatively? Subscribe and share this episode and support Asia Today. Now, do not miss out on the opportunity to nominate another member in society. Continue listening for details that will follow. For now, let's get back to Asia's interview. You have so much that you do. And like, if you had to paint a picture of like a normal day, like how do you like start your day to kind of get moving and get the kids moving? And like, of course, we're coming up on summer. For those that don't know, we're in May
Yeah.
2024, and we're coming up on summer. So of course, some children are, transitioning
Just
to the home, back to the home from school.
Mhm.
What does that look like?
Sure. So normally the first thing I do is I wake up and I talk to God. I have to
Mm-hmm.
give an honor to God and I
Mm-hmm.
talk to him and take a moment just to kind of rest in the space with God because
Right.
he helps me stay centered and stay balanced.
Yeah.
If I do that the way I'm supposed to, then
Mm-hmm.
I start my day off the right way.
Mm-hmm.
And I can get up my son, get him prepared to go to school. I'll
Mm-hmm.
keep the other two down
Mm-hmm.
um, while he's getting prepared to go, and then we'll go ahead and take him. We'll all take him to school,
Mm-hmm.
and I come back. I'll prepare some breakfast for my 2-year-old, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'll probably nurse my infant.
Mm-hmm.
And after that, I will pretty much sit them in their area
Mm-hmm.
with like a morning TV, like PBS or something like that. I'm always working on something. So I got to get the edits out and I'll start
Right.
editing. And after that, I'll pretty much get them ready for lunch.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I would decide to take them to the park
Mm-hmm.
to do an outdoor activity.
Mm-hmm.
And when I'll come back, it's about time for my oldest to come home. We'll spend
Mm-hmm.
about 2 hours out there. I want to wear them out. Okay. I want to
Right.
wear them out so I can get back
Right. Oh
to
yes.
editing.
Right. Oh
So by
yes.
the time we come back, they pretty much wore out. Okay. They had a snack, they get wore out, they just sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And then eventually my son comes home with my husband. And then it's just pretty much rain free from there.
Right.
So that's when I have a little bit more support.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll start probably getting dinner ready around maybe about 6 or 7,
Mm-hmm.
sometime later, because I just be doing so much. And I'll be trying to also, juggle the entrepreneurship at the
Right.
same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'll be trying to meet those deadlines. So it
Mm-hmm.
can get, hectic, but
Mm-hmm.
as long as you try to stick to what you started in your mind to complete today, you
Right.
should be able to complete that.
Yeah.
But there are hard days. There
Yeah.
are hard days. There are
Yeah.
trying days.
Yeah.
Okay. I know that I had went downstairs one time
Mm-hmm.
to get some water.
Mm-hmm.
Uh and I came back upstairs
Mm-hmm.
and my 2-year-old had Vaseline literally all over his body. And he did that within a
Yes.
span of 2 minutes. So there are very trying days. Okay. At that time, I think I was working on a feature film and working on my entrepreneurship business. But at that time, I was able to work from home. So I'm also trying to, juggle that in the industry. When you are working on a film, the hours are very rigorous. Like they want you to work at the very least 12s. And if
Right.
not 12s, you could be working up to 16 into 18 hours and doing the job that I was doing in the film industry, which is assistant production coordinating or travel coordinating.
Mm-hmm.
It was very, very time consuming because I'm one of those roles that's like around the clock. So if anything happens, like I keep the production alive.
Right.
They contacted me at every waking moment.
Right.
Hey, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, but this happened. We need your help. So
Right.
I'm like, oh, okay. So I'm also juggling that. So it's some trying days that show up, some
Yeah.
very trying days.
Mm-hmm. And that's understandable because like you said, and I'm glad you mentioned that. So people don't think like, oh, she just has this perfect life and nothing goes wrong. It's like
Mm-hmm.
life is still
Mm-mm.
happening around you. And
Mm-hmm.
people have to realize that just because you have the flexibility to be home and,
Mm-hmm.
raise your children at the same time and to grow your
Yeah.
business and be a wife, it doesn't mean that you're not going to have these hiccups that come up and
Oh,
not
sure.
like everything is going to be
Oh,
perfect in a perfect world. Yes, it's a good day still, but
mm,
it's not going to be without some, detours that you weren't
right.
expecting. So I
And it's not
Mhm.
the image either that
Right.
I want
Exactly.
for my
Exactly.
everyday. I
Exactly.
want more time to be able to focus in on my children,
Right.
to be able to teach them as if they were at school. But a
Hmm.
lot of times I do find myself having to put them in a spot,
Hmm.
to keep them safe and keep them engaged with whatever I put in front of them, but then I have to go off and do this. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Then I have to go off and I have to edit, or I have to go off and I have to pertain to this particular production,
Hmm.
or or try to structure my business, work on my business, try to market and this and that. Just trying to build something
Hmm.
at the same time as also being a mother, and it can be sometimes I have days where I'm like, Lord, what am I doing?
Right.
I need your help.
Right, exactly, exactly. But just that acknowledgement that you need the help and
Mhm.
you call on God, you seek his guidance, and it's not where you're just there and you're like, okay, I'm just giving this all up. Like you still put your faith and trust in the Lord. So it's not where you're
Yeah,
just doing it and you're just like, yeah, this is all me. No, you
yeah,
recognize that it is God. And I think that's critical for people that are listening. God is first.
yes.
So as Asia mentioned, when she first wakes up, she's talking to God. That's her first. That's her go-to. So
Mhm.
it's
Yeah.
not where once she hits the floor and starts running and doing everything, it doesn't mean that she doesn't take the time to stop and
Mhm.
talk to God. So I think
Right.
that's really good to for people to really evaluate and assess if, say for instance, if they're thinking about or they could be, on a fence about, taking a similar career move, or it could be just,
Mhm.
to embrace entrepreneurship in general. Like,
Yeah.
what does that look like for them? And what are some of the obstacles or just the areas that they really have to bring into the fold to really make that educated decision as to whether or
Yeah.
not it is something that they want to move forward with. Now, with that being said, you've mentioned so much about, everything that you do on a day to day, but how do you unwind like from a long day? Like how do you and even if it's weekly, but how do you reward yourself so that you still have that self-care at the end of the day or at the end of the week for Asia?
That's a great question. Because it doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen
Mhm.
all the time.
Mhm.
But sometimes just something that's immediate that really just rests with me is taking a moment to
Mhm.
watch some good TV series
Mhm.
or movie with my husband.
Mhm.
Because we both are in the entertainment industry. He's actually an actor,
Mhm. Mhm.
and and I just love movies, and I love the fact that you can watch a movie with someone and you can be on the same page. And I think that that's
Right.
really what drew me in, because I'm like, if we're all watching an action flick, we all excited together. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Like, oh my gosh, we are on the edge of our seat. Like, everybody's kind of like in unison.
Mhm.
And it doesn't matter what genre that is, but that's what movies can do for you. It can
Yes.
really draw the emotion out of you. And I feel like in that way, we kind
Mhm.
of get outside of our bubble because we're all enjoying something together.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
I really love to do that with my husband.
Yeah.
So have that moment where I'm like, okay, let's just not think about what's going on.
Mhm. Right. Exactly. Exactly. Exactly.
And let's focus on just this show. Let's see where this show takes us.
Right.
So
Right.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Might have me a glass of wine.
I
And
know I
another
do.
thing, yes, yes, you know. So as I mentioned before, but I really love talking to God.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
really helps me when I'm at a place where I feel frazzled or I don't really feel centered.
Mhm.
I take a moment and I will talk to God. And
Yes.
sometimes I like to go outside to do that. And outside, I just feel, I don't know. It just, especially at night when I can see the stars, it just feels very calming and relaxing. Go outside and I'll sit, and then I'll be able to really clear my mind, clear my
Right.
thoughts, and have a conversation with God. And then he'll kind of realign my thoughts and he'll tell me what to do next. Like, you need to do this because
Yeah.
you're supposed to complete that and you still haven't completed it yet. So do
Right.
that now.
Yeah.
And I can hear, God's voice. So that also helps me to unwind
Hmm.
and just recenter.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, from the restoration piece, like you're being restored at that moment. So
Mm-hmm.
naturally you're going to have that connection with the Lord at that appointed time, so that
Yeah.
he can speak to you. So like you said, you talk to God, but in your last response you specifically said you also listen, so it's
Right.
not where you're just going and talking. And I think
Mm-hmm.
sometimes, just as spiritual beings in general, people have a tendency to go and talk, but they don't wait to hear his voice, and that's where it
Right.
trips people up.
Mm-hmm.
And so then they're wrapped up in other things that he didn't tell them to do, and then they're
Right.
wondering why they're having all these issues. Well, first off, you
Mm-hmm.
didn't even wait to see if he told you to even go this path. You just
Right.
on your own journey. You're doing something to rechannel your thinking, and then you're calming your mind, your spirit, your body, so that you can then receive from God. You can hear from him so that you can then
Mm-hmm.
move forward before the next day. Um,
Yeah.
and you can pretty much plan out your next day. Because you've been at this for a moment, you're doing well, you're successful African American female. And um, just with that alone, like what advice can you offer to any wives or mothers or entrepreneurs that are young like yourself, who may be considering marriage and having to really think about what to juggle in their own careers? Whether suggestions, feedback, advice that you can offer at this time to the listeners.
Hmm. Well, let's see. I would say, you know, um, if marriage and having children is something that you truly are looking to step into,
Mhm.
then you I would say do it with the right person.
Right.
You know, it's okay to check your partner.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
make sure
Right.
you check.
That's true.
Because if he's not supportive of you now,
Right.
he's not gonna turn around and be supportive for you after y'all have children and
Right.
y'all getting married. If it's difficult to operate in your space now,
Right.
it's gonna just get more difficult. You
Hmm.
need to find you a partner who's gonna be your friend, who's gonna
Yeah.
be able to you're gonna be able to confide in when things get rough, who's not going to judge you when you make mistakes, who's going to
Right.
help build you up, because that person is going to blossom even more in those categories when you guys get married and
Hmm.
have children.
Hmm.
Because when it gets tough, it gets tough.
Right.
And then and then just don't give up. You know what I'm saying? Especially in your business, like don't give up. If you constantly are thinking about whatever it is that you truly want to do, if it's constantly taking up time in your brain, then that means that you are supposed to be doing that.
Right.
Don't stop in that.
Right.
Move in that, because the enemy will trick you time and time again to make you think you're not good enough. But those are all lies. You have to
Yep.
trust in it, because if it won't leave your brain, there's a reason. You're
Right.
supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to be moving in that space.
Right.
So I implore you to just take the leap. Like,
Hmm.
your gifts will make room for you. Just take the leap. But it's not going to be easy, because listen, Jesus, when he walked this earth,
Yep.
it wasn't easy for him, but he had a path and he had a destiny, and he still won and he still prevailed. But it
Exactly.
wasn't easy. He went through those trials and tribulations the same as we do. Those
Yes.
tests. So
Hmm.
you're gonna have tests, you're gonna have trials, but look at it as that, as the Lord grooming you
Yes.
and molding you to have you prepared for when the harvest comes. And there will
Yes.
be waves of harvest. It won't just be constant, just beautiful. You know what
Right.
I'm
Right.
saying? It won't be the sunshine and
Yes.
the
Yes.
roses. You're gonna
Yes.
have those highs, you're gonna have those mountains, and you're gonna have those valleys at the same time. You might
Yes.
even have some deserts in between there.
I know that's
But
right. Yes. Mm-hmm.
but stay with it. If it does not leave your mind and your heart, then you are supposed to be doing it. And
Mm-hmm.
then when it comes to your children, they will throw in a curveball, but
Mm-hmm.
I think that they're also our motivation.
Yeah.
Like my children are my motivation, and it's also they really teach you how to love better, how to love more like God, because
Mm-hmm.
now you're not putting yourself
Mm-hmm.
before them. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? You're putting them before everything else. And you're
Yes.
working with your partner. If you do have your partner, you're working with your partner to really build something and really teach them,
Mm-hmm.
in the
Mm-hmm.
right way.
Mm-hmm.
So it becomes a constant growth spectrum when you
Yes.
have children. You're constantly learning, you're constantly growing because you want to be the best version of yourself, not just for yourself, but you want to do it for them because
Right.
they're watching literally everything that you do, how you handle issues. When you
Yes.
go into a coffee shop and they get your order wrong, are you cussing that person out? Are
Right.
you going off? Are you just because you're teaching that to
Yep.
your babies?
That's
You
true.
know what I'm saying? Are you, does your anger exemplify who God is? You know what I'm
Right.
saying?
Right.
You have to constantly have a heart check
Right.
because your children are absorbing all of this. And
Yes.
when they grow up and they end up being off the wall, you be like, I don't know who this is. I ain't
Right.
raised you, but you got to think about all those
Like, well, who raised them?
right.
Look at that person in the mirror.
Man, all the moments that you wasn't calculating, but they was
Yes.
watching.
Hmm.
They was watching. So
Yes.
you have to constantly try to be better for them, and in turn, you'll be better for yourself, for your spouse,
Hmm.
and for the other people that your mission is aligned with. You
Yes.
know, so it's, I guess, I don't even know if that was really a word of advice.
Oh no, no,
That's what I.
that was it. Yeah, that was edification for those
Yeah.
that need it. I do believe that. So yes, that's an amen and an amen,
Yeah.
amen. And if I was sitting up in the church, I'd be like, okay, it's time to pass the offering plate. Y'all get y'all wallets out. Like, here we go. Get your wallets out. We
Yeah,
only we
yeah,
don't want
yep.
look. We
That's a
only want
word.
we
Come
only
on
want
now.
money that can be on Cash App. Girl, yes, that's an
We take
edification.
PayPal,
Yes,
okay?
then you're like, oh my gosh. But yeah, that is
Oh.
definitely it's more than advice. Like I said, it's wisdom. It's
Mhm.
edifying others and
Yeah,
letting them know and sharing, from a testimonial aspect, and then coming full circle with
yeah,
who God is in your life. Is
yeah.
so people could possibly, because you know often people will see another person's life and they say, "Oh, it looks easy." So, would
Hmm.
you? What is your ideal around being a super mom? Would you say that your task as a super mom is easy, and why or why not? Just to set the record straight, so people really.
Yeah, yeah. Being a super mom is not easy.
Mhm,
It's not easy at all.
mhm,
It is the most challenging thing that I have ever done, to be
mhm,
honest. Like it's just taking this path is this most difficult, but it's
mhm.
rewarding all the same.
Yes.
And it's difficult because you're juggling in all of these different areas.
Mhm,
Um, for me, it's the career path that I chose is not your typical or average career path. It's very it's an unorthodox career path in terms of just when you have a group of people in
mhm.
one room, you're not gonna find a whole lot of them people in that room saying that they are a filmmaker and an aspiring, director, producer,
Right.
and they do photography. They have this whole business. They have all these aspirations within the entertainment industry.
Right.
You're not going to find a whole lot of people in that room that says something like that. So I think that because of that, it's a lane that it's very rugged on
Mhm,
the way there,
mhm,
especially with being a woman and then also being a Black woman.
mhm.
So it's challenging in that regard. I hit wall after wall. I mean, I'm scraping my knees up. I'm
Right.
trying
Right.
to,
Right.
I'm trying my
Trying to
best.
get back up and dust yourself off.
Man. and
Yes.
and then having, being a mother of three beautiful and amazing boys is
Mm-hmm.
also
Mm-hmm. Yes.
a lot.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Because, sometimes I'm like, okay, Lord, like if I have enough,
Mm-hmm.
will I be able to keep up? Because I can barely keep up now.
Right.
But the Lord doesn't put any too much on that you cannot handle. But sometimes, y'all,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it
Yep.
feel like
Yes. Oh my
like
God.
I ain't built for this. But
Uh-huh.
but
And that's when you had your unwinding period, and he like, you
yes,
are,
yes, yes,
you gonna get
yes.
up tomorrow, you
Them
gonna scrape your
challenging
knees off
times have
tonight.
me back outside. They have me
Right.
back outside.
Right. You gonna scrape your knees off, and you gonna make
Yeah,
sure that you
yeah,
go right
yeah.
back to that same playing ground, and you gonna do what you're supposed to.
Yes, go back to it. Go back to the mission.
Yes.
Trying to raise three men because it's three men, and it's
Right.
three Black men. So I
Mhm.
always think about that. I'm like, okay, I have to try to respond in love first. At the
Mhm.
same time, I have to be firm in my position.
Right.
And I want to still instill in him how to protect himself and
Right.
how to hold his head up high and how
Right.
to have. It's okay to have your opinion. Don't
Mhm.
hold your head down. Hold your head up.
Mhm.
Be confident in yourself and in your answers. So I'm trying to think about how to push them all in that way,
Right.
but at the same time, I don't want to break that 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 gift that he has of
Right.
being so kind and nurturing, because that
Right.
is the gift,
Yeah.
and you
It
can't
definitely is.
wash that out. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? You can harden somebody's heart
Right.
by just being too like you supposed to be this, you supposed to be this, da, da, da,
Mhm.
as a boy. But
Mhm.
I'm like, at the same time, I'm like, no, he was born like that. He has that innate gift in him. And
Right.
there's a reason why he has that. I don't really want to take that away from him, but
Right.
I do want him to understand the difference between being kind and being, gentle versus protecting yourself and being strong minded. You know what I mean? Like to
Mhm.
being, confident in yourself.
With even like you said, with the shaping and the molding based on the spirit that you recognize that's in him and who
Mm-hmm.
God would have him to become. You can role play with him in ways that he will understand to
Mm-hmm.
help get him there. I did
Yeah.
it with my children. And it really worked because sometimes, like you said, children are they're vulnerable, but they genuinely love, or they have that gift
Mm-hmm.
of
Yeah.
helping, loving others, as opposed to just being an evil child or being some sort
Mm-hmm.
of exorcism or exorcist child or something like he's not demonic. So okay. So
Yeah.
we he has love in him, so
Right.
like we have to just take and shape the gift that God has in him and then mold him to the different image. And I think that's where, like, from a biblical standpoint, where the Bible comes in, because you look at just the different mothers with their children and what they did. Not all of them in the Bible and scripture were doing it the way they should have. But if
Yeah.
you look at the first five mothers or so, they all
Mm-hmm.
shaped their sons in one way or another. And the
Yeah.
ones that they wanted to shape them into an evil being, they did that too. But
Mm-hmm.
if you recognize certain characteristics or things that he may do, from a behavioral standpoint, you can always mold them. So
Yeah.
it's not where, because even, like you said, people want to always have something to say about, oh, he's not this and he's not that.
Right.
I think even with my own son, he was, he was kind and everything, he
Mm.
has little mischief ways. But
Yeah. Yeah.
when he, at the end of the day, he wasn't as hard and tough as all the other boys until he started like playing football,
Yeah.
and he started getting some mass to him, and now nobody
Yeah.
would even want to touch him. It's like,
Right. Right.
they look at him like, okay, he's not to be played with, so that
Mm-hmm.
kind of deal. So it's like I didn't have to make him evil, for
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
way, but I also discipline him in a way that he knew,
Mm-hmm.
and basically shaped and molded him based on what he was supposed to do, as opposed to going out here doing things like we see people, when they don't have the proper upbringing, they're
Right.
committing murders and all kinds of things out here.
Mm-hmm.
And then people wonder why children turn out like that. Like you said, they observe their parents, they observe the ones that are
Mm-hmm.
raising them, they observe those that are around them.
Yeah,
They see those
that's a big one.
images. It could be uncle, aunt, it could be a boyfriend, it could be spouse,
Absolutely.
anybody. It could be just a cousin. They
Yeah,
get influenced in an improper way. So I think
absolutely.
it's a good mind to have, like you said, that you don't want to break that spirit, and no, don't break it, because it's
Mm-hmm.
his character of how
Yeah.
God made him. But at the
Mm,
same time, I think you and your husband are on the right path. You are on the right path because you come together to talk to talk to them,
right. Right.
and then you make decisions about them, as opposed to saying, oh, go let her deal with it, or and
Mm-hmm.
then you're on different pages because of you both didn't have a talk together before you guys made the decision. and
Right.
and that's where I think a lot of just homes in general, when you think
Mm-hmm.
about homes in general, they fall to the side because one parent is leading the house as opposed to both parents leading the house, and then kids are
Mm-hmm.
reckless and running around with their heads cut off
Right.
like heathens. So
Yeah.
so
And then you guys have your roles too, because
I
when
know.
they say you got good cop, bad cop, listen,
Exactly, exactly,
you gotta have,
exactly.
that firm hand. That's daddy
Yes,
all day long, okay?
yes,
But to
exactly,
spare the
exactly,
rod, spoil the
exactly.
child, okay?
Yep.
I'm wrong. Look is in conjunction with the rod. Like the
Yes,
look
it is.
is in conjunction with the rod. If you know that look, that means you didn't got your butt whooped before. You
And
didn't
you've
got
been
your
taught.
butt.
And
You've
you've
been
been
taught.
taught. Yeah. This is great. Now, what type of because we know you have a production business, but do you offer any certain services to, because I know you have different types of clients. Are there any type of services or products that you want to share today about what you offer for those that may be interested in, and hiring you and contracting you out for some of those services or products?
Yes. So I am a commercial photographer and cinematographer based in Cincinnati, Ohio,
Mhm.
offering photographic branding and cinematic storytelling to help spread the visibility, acceleration to your brand and your message. So it's my goal to create that visibility accelerator for whatever you offer, whether that be your brand, maybe you are your brand, or you have a product or service that is your brand. I help to spread the visibility and the awareness to your clients and to your investors. So that may look like photography, photographic branding. It may be look like product branding. Um, it may look like cinematic storytelling in terms of like a commercial or a
Mhm.
promo,
Mhm.
but something to visually engage your audience to what your mission is and what your story is, or whatever your product is or service that you're trying to convey to your audience.
Okay.
That is what I specialize in.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And just so the listeners know, we'll have details in the description for those that are interested, as far as like how to get in contact with Asia, as well as her social media information, so that you guys can help support. But I want to talk about how you actually received the Supermom title, because we do have some really great details about how you got that title, and just share a little bit about this contest that you're in as a super mom.
Yes. Yes. So honestly, I came across this ad on Facebook and it popped right up in my timeline. It was like, "Are you a super mom?" And my spirit said, "Absolutely, yes, I am." So I was like, "Okay, let me click on this. What is this? Let me
Right,
see."
right.
And it had what's the Jordan Sparks? It was Jordan Sparks, and she was talking about the Supermom competition and like it celebrate moms. And mothers don't we don't get the credit,
Yeah.
and we are really like doing a lot. Like, I mean, we make sure the kids get where they need to go in the
Mhm.
morning. Bags is packed. Homework's done when they come back. Everybody in the house is fed. We also are providing money on the table to support the household bills. We
Yes.
also are, you know what I'm saying? We try to we are looking at so many different things and
Mhm.
juggling and just being a mom, and we're needed in all these different aspects. And I came across this and I just was like, I am a super mom. I'm doing a lot. Like, I decided to enter into the competition. They offered $20,000 to the winner. And they
Mhm.
also offer a trip, a 1 week vacation to Palm Springs, Florida, which Lord knows I need. And
Yes.
then,
That
and
would
then
be
the big
great.
thing, the biggest thing they offer is, to me anyway, is a two spread, um, a 2 page spread in Women's World magazine.
Mhm.
And that to me could help really boost my business,
Yeah.
because it'll give me the exposure that I need and potentially the support or investment that I need to really continue to build my business, and to, because only God really knows the large vision that I have in my head. And
Right.
so I really would love the opportunity to win this competition.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
and it's like it's built with a whole bunch of super moms, and it's with a Children's Miracle Network,
Mm.
and they support um underserved communities and people who just don't have the resources. So
Right.
organizations like this, they matter, and it helps. So if you ever donate or anything, it's like, well, what money going to? It's supporting kids. Trust me.
Right. Right. Right.
I feel that these charities are necessary and they really do change lives. Some people know, they have their stories, and I'm one of those types of people. So
Yeah.
it does go to a great cause if you choose to donate. And so that's a little bit about the Supermom competition. 3 weeks left.
They're already starting today. Is today the start for this round that you're in?
This week actually starts the beginning of voting again. So I was able to make it through to the quarterfinalists,
Mhm.
and this is the quarterfinalist week. So May the 27th, 2024 is the beginning of this week's round of voting, and the votes have been reset, so we don't start off with a nice surplus of votes. So I need support from all angles to be
Yes.
able to go in and vote. Choose me as 2024 Supermom. If I make it to June 6th is when the voting period ends, and
Mhm.
they make their selections. If I make it to the next round, there will be 2 more rounds before they choose the finalists. It'll be very similar in that regard. With a week of voting and the finalists, and then another week of voting, and then the final, and then it's done.
Mhm.
So basically, can give a vote a day for free.
Okay.
But if you choose to support and push me on there, you can also donate. And they do have days where there's like 2 times donations. Those periods usually happen like the day before the voting period ends, or that Monday. And that means any donation you make, it allows me to have double the votes. So if you do a $25 donation, then I'll get 50 votes.
Yes.
So yeah.
Yes, and that's the goal. And just so that people will realize that it's not to wait to the last minute, but to share, like, share, and subscribe this podcast so that people
Yeah.
have awareness about who Asia is, so that we can actually get the support that she needs to actually win this contest, because the competition has been going and she's made it this far. And I think it says quite a bit about the faith that they have in Asia winning the full competition. So um I thank you, Asia, for coming on and um, just sharing about you, your family, your experiences, and just how, not just being a super mom, but how you are as a wife and a mother. And then also, as a business owner, because people they think that, when you have all of those balls that you're juggling in the air, that it's easy. And the truth of the matter is it's not easy. It's something that you go to the Lord first with, and you've done that, and you've continued to move forward, move in that path. And so you do have a strong relationship with God, but you also realize that part of that relationship and growing even a business, you also have to keep God first. So I do thank you. And just so everybody knows, again, we'll put the details in the chat. But for right now, Asia, if you could share, if you could just verbally share what that link is.
Is the supermom.org/2024/Asia, ASIA hyphen Foster, FOSTER. And that is the link.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so
Mhm.
much for sharing that. And we'll put it in the chat like we mentioned, and make it accessible for people to go and support Asia. And we really, again, we just thank you so much, Asia, for coming on and sharing about yourself and this bonus podcast. And for those who do not know, as Asia mentioned, she is a super mom, and she's more than that, but she's a wife, she's a mother, and she's also an entrepreneur business owner. So she had a very busy schedule. We caught her even on her holiday vacation. So exclusively, we really are grateful that she was able to do this interview today for this podcast and participate as a guest. Thank you again, Asia, and goodbye, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. You have just completed another episode. This is Dr. Holly K. Neal, the Data Boss Lady, saying goodbye. Thank you for listening, and have a great weekend, day, evening, wherever you find yourself. Controversial Data Topics podcast raise awareness so members of our community will be empowered to make more educated decisions about life, finance, communities, and also families. Now, subscribers receive access to videos, data, and live stream Q&A panel sessions, so you do not want to miss out on those benefits. Today's bonus episode is shared because we strive to make you aware about the impact data and technology decisions have on you in the workplace, family, relationships, healthcare, housing, and education systems, just to name a few. Do you know someone we can highlight in your community? Subscribe, then share, and respond to our poll questions at the end of this episode to nominate others we can possibly interview.